This story is in regards to the Florida Board of Education real quick. I want to say this before I get to the callers. I just got a couple of items to touch on before I get to the callers. I ain't going to be long. Florida Board of Education approved a new set of standards for how Black history should be taught in the state's public schools, sparking criticism from education and civil rights advocates who said students should be allowed to learn, quote, the full truth of American history. The curriculum was approved at the board's meeting Wednesday in Orlando. I think it's about 13 board members. I am not aware of the diversity or diverse makeup of those board members. I'd like to see who's dictating what should define Black history and what should be taught to young kids everywhere, particularly African-American kids, about their history. I'm really interested in knowing what those numbers, the numbers of those board members look like from a diverse perspective. How many Blacks on the board? How many Latinos on the board? How many whites on the board? I'd like to know that. In any event, it says here, in the latest development in the state's ongoing debate over African-American history, including the Education Department's rejection of a preliminary pilot version of an advanced placement African-American studies course for high school students, which it claimed lacked educational values. The new standards come after the state passed new legislation under Governor Ron DeSantis that bars instruction in schools that suggest anyone is privileged or oppressed based on their race or skin color. Let me stop there. I don't need to read more. To Governor Ron DeSantis for Florida. My man, I am a registered independent. Although most of the time in my life I have voted Democrat. I'm not that enamored with the Democratic Party. I'm not that enamored with what is affectionately to some, unaffectionately to others described as woke, this woke culture that we're living in. I agree with some of the points that you have made in the past. So much so that I was actually hoping you'd win the Republican nomination, because I certainly don't believe that Donald Trump should be the president of the United States of America. But the more I see stories like this, the more it alerts me to the fact that Ron DeSantis, you don't need to be governor. You don't need to be president either. The battles that he's fighting are just unconscionable. Why is the governor concerning himself with African-American studies? By the way, in the state of Florida, it's been being taught since 1994. Why are you concerning yourself with such things? And when it says here, because I want to make sure that I'm quoting it correctly, bars instructions in schools that suggest anyone is privileged or oppressed based on their race or skin color. Are you trying to deny the fact that white folks have been privileged compared to other races of people in this country? Are you kidding me? That is a fact that even white folks haven't denied. That's how affirmative action came to be. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion has been about. What the hell are you talking about? Of course, there are people in this country who have been oppressed. I have 2 daughters. I've never met a black person, a black parent, that hasn't told their child, you'll need to be twice as good in all likelihood to get half as much. There will be obstacles placed in front of your face just because you are black. There's going to be an uphill climb that you're going to have to endure and persevere through. And even then, sometimes you're going to get a short end of the stick. Oh, by the way, that's if you're black. We ain't get into if you're a woman or a little girl before that, because we know that women are not treated on a fair and equitable basis compared to white men. White women may be treated better than black men because everybody knows white women have been the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. But white women do not get what they deserve compared to their white male counterparts. That is a fact. Are we denying this? And for that to be a focal point for Ron DeSantis, to me, disqualifies you as a presidential candidate. Now, my word means nothing. I'm just a voter. I'm just a conscientious observer. And yes, when they sat up there and overturned, affirmative action, basically omitting and eliminating and eradicating race, as a qualification for admissions, understand that that was a component deemed for consideration. It wasn't the component that decided admissions or not. What you wanted affirmative action for was to ensure that there would be equal and fair opportunities accorded to people in spite of their ethnicity, as opposed to it being held against them. Which is why it was appalling to me, as I said on Sean Hannity's show, as I said on Chris Cuomo's show. It was appalling to me that there were white people walking around this country celebrating as if they somehow had been victimized by a policy their iniquities helped enforce and implement to begin with. You did it. Your actions forced that. And now Ron DeSantis, who wants to be the president of the United States of America. That means to all people, I want to do so just so long as I get to make sure to omit this from your history, from you. Black kids don't need to know just about the negativity of slavery. They need to know about the benefits. Really? Ocoee Massacre, 1920? How about the Tulsa Race Massacre? How about the Rosewood Race Massacre? How about Jim Crow laws? I have no problem with Governor Ron DeSantis or anybody else saying that was the past. We're sorry it happened. Our iniquities against a race of people in this country will never nor should ever be forgotten. But we really, really have to move forward because there's no way to get better without doing so. Had he said that, that's fine. Whether you agree or disagree, it's a reasonable position to take. In some people's eyes anyway. But to sit up there and act like you're justifiably erasing and eradicating history. To keep this from kids on the come up who still have their challenges based off of their race. You're doing it because you don't want to accept responsibility for history and what has led to the divide that exists in this country. And if that is your mentality, you do not deserve to be the president of the United States of America.